Hello, Dental 18 listeners. This is Kiera, and today I am so excited. I did an incredible podcast with Dr. Brendan Gallagher. He is a resident in oral surgery, and we just had a fun conversation. So this is a podcast that was released on his podcast, the Dr. Gallagher's podcast, and I just thought it'd be fun for you guys to hear it, to listen to it. And as always, thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time on the Dental 18 podcast.
Of the Dental 18, this is Kiera Dent, right? This is. I love that it's dent because there's dental, dentin, part of the tooth and stuff. So it's just perfect. It really worked well. And you have a consulting agency, right? Dental 18. And how many years have you been in it now?
Yeah, so we've the company is almost 8 years old. She's about to have her 8th birthday in November, but yeah, that's it's been fun. It was a complete random idea that I came up with to start it, honestly, to help a bunch of dental students, and here we are. So it's been a really fun place to be.
2 more months and 8 years. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
It came from, I worked at Midwestern University's dental college for 3 years while my husband did pharmacy school. And one of the students straight out of school said, "Hey, Kiera, I want you to come help me start my practice." And I said, "Oh my gosh, like absolutely. I've always wanted to be a practice owner. I was a dental assistant and a treatment coordinator and an office manager prior." And so I went and I helped her start her practice, and we took our practice from 500,000 to 2.4 million in 9 months and opened our second location. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like if I could help her do this, there's all my other like favorite dental students. Like I'm sure I could probably be a resource and a help for them. And so that's really what spurred the consulting company. I had never worked with a consultant before. And then I started helping practices and adding 25,000 of production to their schedules very quickly. I was adding, increasing case acceptance to 100% within one day. And I just thought, okay, there's something about this, and it doesn't have to be hard, but I'm going to be a resource for all those dentists in school, because you guys go to school and you're so passionate about what you're doing. But then there's the business side of it. And so if I could be a resource, a trusted resource, knowing what you're learning in school, so that way you guys can be so successful, positively impact your world, help your community, help your team, help your patients, and you guys are living your best lives. That really is what spurred me into being a consultant. So here we are, all with the love. I have no clue what consultants should do. I just keep making up what I believe my students from Midwestern would want to have, and just keep coming from love of you guys just doing the best to support dentistry and us supporting you in that vision.
Excellent. And so you're not at Midwestern anymore. That was only in the beginning for those years?
Yep.
So roughly 8 years ago.
No, so 3 years. And then I went and I worked in Colorado for 2 years. And then I started the company in 2016. 2016. So it was great. It was a good time. And here we are now, 8 years later.
And in Colorado, that was the practice that you brought them from X to, that would be roughly 5X? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Well done. Well done. So they started for a year. You knew them. You had a good rapport, good relationship with them. Over a year or two, you grew it from that, and then you're like, and that's when you decided, okay, let's scale. How did you take that next step from there? So it was just you working at her practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then from there, you said, so you don't work with her anymore. It was like a see you later. No. I'm gonna bigger and better.
It was incredible, and we had such a good run, and I have to give mad kudos to her as a dentist, because I think we were really a dynamic duo. I came in with amazing management and TC skills. We both didn't know what we were doing, and I think that that's part of doctors opening practices, but kudos to her for bringing me on, because I knew pieces she didn't know how to do. But yeah, it was, I think, more her vision. We both were very gung-ho. We wanted to serve more. We wanted to have a bigger impact and footprint. And so we got this practice going, and then we bought our second location, and then there ended up getting 7 practices all together. But things I learned from that was
in 2 years.
It was over the course of 5, 6. I ended up leaving. She continued. And it was something very interesting that those are sexy numbers to put up on a scoreboard. And everybody always has the bright eyes of oh my gosh, how did you do that? But I think my obsession has come, her and I were both on death row. We were working 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. It was insanity to try and get that success. And while yes, there's sexy numbers on the board, we both realized that there's more to life than what we were doing. And are we going to just slay and try and drive this through? Or is there maybe something more to this? And so, yes, we did part ways, and I'm just so proud of everything that she created. But my marriage, my life, all of those things were falling apart. And I realized me traveling back and forth from Reno, Tahoe area to Colorado all the time was just really hard on my marriage. I wasn't seeing my husband. I was completely anorexic. I was like 98 pounds and I'm 5'8". And it was just, everything felt like it was deteriorating. And so that was where it had to be like, let's do a step back. Her life was deteriorating. And I thought, there has to be a better way to success than what we've done. Like, yes, we've got sexy numbers to throw up on the board. Yes, we've got all these cool things, but is there not a better way that we can do this where you can have an incredible family and you can have incredible numbers and you can have a thriving business? And that really has become my passion and obsession, is helping more dentists live a fulfilled life, hitting up those sexy big numbers or whatever they want to do, but still maintain their life, their identity, their freedom, is really what I'm obsessed with within our company and our culture, and really helping dentists get that life.
Oh yeah, and that's such a great pitch too, where it's let's seize that life that we dreamed of again. I love that. Now, in where it started to get a little rocky there, speaking of Colorado, but while it started to happen, was that the first 2 years when you were with her, or was that within the 5, 6 years when she scaled to 7 or so practices? First two.
No, so that was my first 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. And both of us were there. And I think that happens, right? You've got all the student debt. I used to call her 2.5, like when she's hunched over, not like good ergonomics. I'm like, hey, 2.5, we were 2.5 million debt. Like with student loans, the practice acquisition, within our first couple of months of owning the practice, our building was being torn down. So we had to move our patient base to another location, build up another practice. So and I think oftentimes it's how people come out, right? Like, you've got a lot of debt. You've been sitting in residency for so long, or you've been in school for so long, or whatever it is, or you're an associate and you feel like, okay, I bought this practice. I think there's this like innate desire to just hit the ground running, but we forget that that can only sustain for so long. Like, we are human bodies. We are not human robots. And realizing that there's so much that can happen. We also were very naive. We did not have systems in place, and we just kept like adding more fuel to our fire that was already burning and blazing bigger than we were. And so we got to a good place. We were hiring other doctors, but I think that that's where my obsession has come of like, let's give systems. And I just got off a podcast with one of our doctors that we work with, and her and her husband are kind of thriving and jamming the same way I was. But what they've done differently is we're really specific of, let's get all these systems in place before we buy our second location. And like, let's slow to grow rather than like fly to die. Like, it was a very different model, and they're thriving and they're happy and their marriage is incredible. There's different, like, both are available to us. I think I'd prefer, let's take the sustainable route that's very doable, that keeps your passion alive rather than killing you off at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So when you translate into systems and processes, coming from a clinician, a provider background, system and processes, I have an idea, like the system I'm thinking of is like the computer or no, but really in a practice setting, if I could just have some insight to what you mean behind that, developing systems and processes before you buy that second practice. What were some of those, if I can know?
Of course, yeah. And this is what I just geek out on. This is why we have the podcast. It's like tactical, practical with ease. So it's like, do you have a process for how you're doing like our billing process? And in Dental A Team, I actually made 12 categories that kind of fall within the 12 months of like systems to have. So there's like your office management. You've got your practice profitability and your numbers. We have our dental assistants and how we set up our rooms and our operatories. We have our handoffs. We have our like how we hire and onboard people. We have our operations manual completed. We have our treatment tracker and case acceptance. We have our hygiene protocols to put those into play to make sure our hygiene teams like diagnosing and we're treating patients the same way. We have our doctor optimization, where we're really working on like, what are the clinical skill sets of our doctors and are we maximizing their skills within? And so those are what I mean by systems. And I'll be completely honest, we were like just two girls flying by the seat of our pants. So like, we did not have a process for billing. We did not have a process for scheduling. It was just like, dump it in and we'll figure out how to do it, versus like, you can have, I've added multiple millions to people's schedules just by having block scheduling with ease. And they're out by 4 o'clock. They're out by 3 o'clock. We're putting up really hard, like great numbers. The patients are happy. The team is happy. Like, literally, I have a practice that I took from 2 million to 4.5 million just by changing their block scheduling. And so it's like, these are the simple systems. that maybe you don't have to go buy another practice unless a DSO or something like that is what you're trying to do. But let's make sure that we have those, because I've also gone to offices and they're like, we're completely maxed out on our space. And I find an operatory there. We don't actually have to go buy a bigger building. We can keep it here. We can systematize it here. We can maximize, like, are we doing our handoffs? Are we collecting before they leave? Are we having proper treatment plans? Are we tracking our case acceptance? Are we watching the things that, like our hygiene team's doing? What's our hygienist producing per hour? Are there ways that we can help our patients more? What's our morning huddle? Those systems in place make it clockwork, where it's very predictable magic behind the scenes. Like, we know we will have magic in our practice because we have systems in place. And maybe we don't have to go for the multi-practices unless that's our drive and our desire. Then by all means, let's do it. But let's make it to where we can stamp it out. I promise you, like, you look at McDonald's, I think that's the easiest one. They're like, they were the crowning jewel of systems. They were not stamping this out haphazardly. They were looking for the efficiency and making it to where each new place would have the same exact experience, just in a different location. What's your experience in your practice, and how can you go replicate that with ease, is really what I mean by systems behind the scenes.
Yeah. And were you doing all this at Midwestern?
No. So at Midwestern, if you recall, I feel like I was your tooth lunch lady. I handed out all the teeth, the composite, like all the things I don't know in the simulation center. So I worked with the first and second year students and helped with the radiology, and all of that. But prior to that, I was a dental assistant, a treatment coordinator, a scheduler, a biller. I just wanted to get a discount on my husband's tuition. I'll be fully honest. And it just happened to work out. So then I became this cute little tooth lunch lady. Like, here's your teeth, here's your composite, here's your bands. And then went and helped her in Colorado, and then started helping other dentists. Just really.
And Midwestern, because there are two Midwesterns. There's Arizona and Illinois, right?
Arizona.
You were in Arizona. I was going to say, because Reno, Nevada. Are you still in Reno, Nevada?
We are. Yep. So we still live here. My husband did his residency here because my family lives over in California. So it was the closest location without paying California tax.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just step back to being at Midwestern. Have you ever seen like a show or a movie or something where the guy or girl moves the plant that's in the shade into the light, and then all of a sudden the flower blooms?
Yeah.
I feel like that's where you moved yourself out of the shade into the light. Not to make it be all figurative and everything, but I literally see, like, because now you're killing it. You're consulting with all these practices and stuff doing. So no, that's a really, first of all, the story is incredible, because you got to appreciate someone who takes that hop, skip, and a jump, gets into the environment that's a maybe, it's a risk, and they blossom. And I don't want to be like a radio show here, but I really seek for the optimism in people's lives. There's a lot of fear going on these days. There's a lot of skepticism, a lot of conspiracies, and it's really nice to find, let's hone back in together and let's really get into the nitty gritty of the good things and success stories. So yeah, so that's just, I wanted to touch that really there, because I really appreciate that. We need risk takers, and we need to admire those and understand how they did it. Okay, so moving on, can you just shout out your podcast on it so everyone knows?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have the Dental Team podcast. Gosh, I think I'm about up to, we might have surpassed our 900 mark and headed towards our 1,000 mark of episodes. So definitely try to have a ton of resources for free out there. And for any dentists out there listening, or students, like, I love the students. Clearly, I have a very soft spot in my heart for students and residents, people who want to grow. But if you go to our website, thedentalteam.com, we have our podcast link, and literally you go and you type in anything: treatment planning, scheduling, verbiage for dropping insurance, like you name it. I probably have a podcast or two on them, and all of our database is there for you. So trying really hard just to give back. And like you said, my goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry in the greatest way possible, and just remind us of how, like, blessed we are to be able to change people's lives through dentistry. And I truly believe that owning a practice should not be hard. It does not need to be hard. You can still have everything you want. So yeah, our podcast, The Dental Team, love to have you there. Thank you for that shout out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, continuing, if you can do me a favor, and on your Instagram, the bio, if you can just change, I think you changed the name of your handle, your organization, the company, the podcast. That handle changed in your bio. I think it might have been an older handle, but you can't click it, is what I mean. We just got to fix that. That'll help out your followers so that they can make the link between you and, and your consulting group. Just something I noticed.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on from there. So you have the podcast, you have on providers and stuff. You just had Dr. Jason Auerbach on. I just saw him last week at the Amos conference, which is pretty cool, and I had him on the podcast last year. That's a lot of fun. How often how often do you meet with providers, owners, DSOs versus private practices? I'm curious what the percentages are there, and then the percentages of providers versus. Do you ever talk with other people that consult for practices?
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully I understood your question. I'll answer, and if I missed it, please, I'm here for it. But our consulting primarily focuses on GP practices. We have a really strong pediatric following as well. Some OS, some ortho. We kind of dabble in all of the specialties a little bit, but really GP. And our niche is to work with the practice owners. We sometimes will work with their associates, so the doctors, and then also the team. Because I found, like, we put so much out there for the doctors. Like, everybody is targeting the doctors. Why would they not? The doctors are the buyer. The doctors are the ones running the practice. But I realized if we can elevate the team as well, and we can teach the team to think like owners, and we can get the team inspired and excited, that's 90% of the battle of having a successful practice. So we coach both. We raise up office managers. We build leadership teams. We do quarterlies. I do work with startup practices all the way up to multi-level DSOs. And so really kind of everything in between. My sweet spot's usually the 2, 3, 4, 5 locations, is really what I love to do, or practice owners who are wanting to grow and possibly sell to a DSO. I love the startups. I love to give them the system so they really do well exponentially. We have an entire CE online database that's got an operations manual and all those pieces, but really, my body has physically been in over 250 dental practices. I used to travel about 265 days a year. And so I now have cut that back, and I don't travel as much as I used to for work. I do more for fun, but that's really kind of our nutshell. And then we bring all of our doctors together, and I love to get doctors to just share. So from the brand new owner to the experienced owner, having them collaborate together in mastermind settings where, because there's so much knowledge, I get to see it. Most people don't get to be in 200 offices. They don't get to work with 200 teams. But to bring all these teams together and bring all these doctors together, that's where we elevate and lift everybody up. And so it's really fun. So hopefully that answered your question. But if not, ask any other ones about that.
Yeah. No, that definitely answers it. And what kind of percentages are you at now versus in the beginning working with DSOs versus smaller private practices? I'm curious.
Gotcha. So we're more like, I would say 90% are private practices and 10% are the DSOs. However, a lot of our practices do sell to those larger DSOs, which I think is just a common piece right now. But I am very pro I don't have a one size fits all. Our consulting is very much, what does that doctor want to do? And some doctors are like, Kiera, I get emails from DSOs every other day, but that's not what I want to do. And my job's not to say like, let's build it to sell to a DSO. My job is to say, Brendan, what life do you want to have? What do we want to do? Where do you want to be? Like, what do you want your financial retirements to be? How much time do you want off from the practice? And let's build your practice to suit your life and fulfill your life. Because if you are happy and thriving, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I would like everything else to fall into place one day. Hopefully 9 months after graduating, that's the goal. I did already sign with a practice. It's a multi-practice out on Long Island. How many practices have you worked with on Long Island?
Long Island, I've actually had 2 over there. So I've definitely been up in that area. I had
Dental 365? Who? Can I know?
Definitely not Dental 365. I used to work with an office named Brian Stimler. He was out there. And then there was another office, and they were just slipping. We're talking 6 years ago, that was in Long Island. I could see them. I just cannot remember their name. I'll look it up post show and let you know. But yeah, I'm flying out to Canandaigua on Sunday to go and work with a practice up there. So I still come out that way, but I don't have any more on Long Island.
That's all right. Wow. Okay. So you're all over the U.S. Canada at all? Because you mentioned.
So I have consulted in Canada. I've consulted in Australia and New Zealand as well. I was trying to do the whole international thing. We have lots of listeners international, which is super fun. But I almost got deported from Canada on one of my visits. And after that, which I thought Canada of all places.
How did that happen?
The client told me just to say I was going for fun, and so I did. And they searched my phone. They were like, what are your clients? What do you do? Like, what do these friends do? They're dentists. And they told me, technically I'm allowed to go over there to collect data, without a visa, but if not, that they could deport me. I was so scared. I've never been that scared in my entire life. I was shaking. I definitely went and visited by Niagara Falls. Like, I literally was a whole complete tourist. I told my clients, like, I'm sorry, I will not be doing anything. We still have a good giggle from that time. But yeah, after that, I just stopped traveling international for
Was that by plane, car? Like what?
it was in the airport. I should have. So it's funny. I was actually in Canandaigua, and their practice was in Toronto, and it was like maybe a 2 hour drive across the border. And I should have done that, but my assistant at the time, like we just knew we were young, and I had someone booking travel for me, and so she flew me back to Newark, and then flew me to Toronto. And when I did that, going through Toronto customs, I was rookie. The things I did wrong: one, I was dressed like a business professional on a Saturday. Two, I was trying to be so super ultra honest and put that I had peanuts, like I had nuts in my bag, which was so dumb. Like, I wasn't eating it there. Like, I don't know what my thought process was on it. And I remember getting a pink line across my little document going into Canada, which sent me to the right, not to the left. I was sitting there waiting forever. Then I started to wonder, like, why am I in this line? Like, usually this is a faster thing. Then I started to get nervous, like I have contracts and things like that in my email. Luckily, when I got up there, the lady was not having anything. Like, we were not getting onto good terms. Like, they're very strict at border control. And
They
luckily,
are like
they're
it's good
so
to be strict, but you're there for business. What's wrong with? I don't like. Why are they stopping? I don't know. What in the peanuts?
so,
What's wrong with peanuts?
like they say, like, are you bringing any nuts with you? And I was like, why did I say yes to that? Like, just like, don't eat them while you're over there if you accident, or throw them away. Like, I don't know what my deal was. So
True.
yeah, but then on my flight back, my client was like, you're fine, you got over. And I said, I don't think I'm fine. And truth be told, when I went back to the airport, there's a code that they'll put on some tickets. Like, I couldn't check in, so when I was flying back, I wasn't allowed to check in online. So I'd go to the airport, I printed my ticket, and I got 4 S's on my boarding
Oh
pass,
no,
which
yeah.
then meant I got searched up and down, left and right. The really cool thing is, because I do work in dental offices, my bag and my shoes actually flagged that I had bomb making materials on me. They asked what I do for work and what my husband does for work, found out we were in healthcare, which, I mean, there are some things that we do have in dental offices that probably could contribute. So when they found out I worked in healthcare, I was allowed to go. Everything was fine. I got to the gate. I got searched again at the gate. And then finally I was able to fly back home. So
Oh
I've
my
never been so excited to
God.
see the US flag flying after. So that was my end of international consulting. I've still consulted people in Canada, but they have to come over to the US. I'll meet them right at the border, but we do it all in the US now. So that was a good
Okay.
lesson learned early on.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. And you could probably do a bit virtual. Why do you need to meet in person? I'm curious.
Yeah, so that was really what I built the company on, and we've since shifted and whatnot. But what I found was, going to people's offices. I went to one office. I'd been consulting them for about 6 months, and I walked in and they had paper charts. Never once did paper charts come up on any of our calls. And I'm like, excuse me? We have paper charts in this office? Like, how was that never a conversation? And what I realized is, what me as a consultant might see that maybe isn't like a good flow or good things, a dentist who's been doing this for years might not even know that that's abnormal. And so sometimes being able to see the practice can really help. It can really help us evaluate. We can get the team on board. So that's been something that's been really fun. But we've also now learned that, I think after seeing so many practices myself, we know a lot more of the questions to ask, of the team pieces, of the flow. There's different ways. I mean, COVID really helped exponentially grow that virtual piece. And honestly, we can get, I would say, we're 98% as good of results virtually as we were getting in person. So the only thing I think people miss is just us being with their teams. So now we're flying all of our doctors and teams together. So we're still able to influence. And we learned through COVID, we did virtual team events, and teams love it. We ship swag boxes, and we really learned how to have this fun, engaging experience virtually that teams get bought into. And then it's cheaper for the doctors not to have to fly an entire team to a location as well.
Right. I just thought of a couple things to ask you
Yeah.
really quickly. Have you ever met Paul Vigario of Surf CT?
I have I've not.
No. Okay.
So
They're
they
an IT
run.
company. They do a bunch of things, but you were mentioning kind of, I forget the exact word you used, but you were saying like building up and motivating the team
Mhm.
of the dental office. He uses the word empower, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know if you guys had crossed paths or something, but he would be a good person to, or connections, in the network. The other thing is I wanted to ask you because you like to go, or at least you started the business by going in person to these offices. Do you have any recommendations that you make as far as the flow? Because you have the waiting room and then you have the operatories and all the double chairs. Maybe you have consult rooms and follow-up rooms next to them. And then towards the end on the way out, it's different from the entrance because people got dental treatment and they got to make that payment, hopefully, before they leave the office.
Mhm.
Is that anything that you evaluate and make better or?
Totally. Yeah. One of my offices, they're a very big booming practice. They do over 14 million a year and in one location. And I went up to their office and it's kind of my running joke. I said, you guys, I don't even want to put this on my resume that I did this for your practice. Like we're talking big booming practice, huge practice. They've been doing amazing for years. What I implemented in their practice were flowers that I went and bought from the store and put in vases at their checkout location because what I noticed is they were not getting a high of cases closed because there was no privacy. It was too big of a thing. And I also noticed the flow was really confusing because people were coming from both directions and they were actually running into each other. Patients were backing up, patients were leaving. And I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed that like Kiera Dent came in, dental aid team, and I put flowers on your checkout. But what happened was their case acceptance skyrocketed. The patient flow, I practiced with the entire team. Because what's crazy is those little things we don't think about, but the patient experience exponentially increases
Yep.
and our case acceptance goes up exponentially. So I'm like a miracle girl in practices. Case acceptance is my jam. Having really smooth flows for practices is really what I love to do. And so, yes, in my perfect world, if I get to see your blueprints before you build the practice, always having an in and an out because it really helps. But if like the practice is how it is, let's figure out flows. Sometimes I'll just add a little bench by the checkout where people can actually seat their patient so the patient's not leaving the door. Little different things where you can hand like a route slip or anything of communication, like the baton passing between the front and the back office. So that way everything is just so clean of what's going on between the front to the back and having that flow very, very easy. But yeah, that's something I really love to see
Interesting.
because just one small little thing or in big offices, I do like a direction and a flow of traffic. So that way we're getting all patients going through one door, getting them to check out. There's a set process. I call it like the HOV lane or
I like that.
so if they're just a quick checkout, like a speedy checkout, send them to this person. If they're a longer one, put them here, have different people that are better with different skill sets at those two seats. Sometimes on the check-in, I'll have people take payment so we're not backing them up. In really large practices, when they start to get bigger and bigger, I will start to have the clinical team, like very easy. If they just need a fluoride payment, just swipe that card in the back. Very easy. We can get credit cards on file. And then there's checks and balances to make sure none of it gets missed because more hands in pots can oftentimes lead to chaos. But if it's a systematized way, you can do so much with a flow and make everybody's life so much easier.
Absolutely. So then it leads to my next question. Then right on that, virtually, how do you assess someone's patient flow and the routes and finding that HOV lane?
So, oftentimes we will still go to practices, but if I'm not in a practice, it's really simple. Like, do a little FaceTime video with me. Like, walk me through your practice, show me what your patients are doing. And what's really fun about our consulting is when you've seen so many offices, you can like within 10 minutes of being in a practice, I already know what they could do to improve very quickly because you just see it. It's like we're playing a game and I spot it. And so just do a fast, easy FaceTime. I've got an office right now and we work through their entire flow virtually and everything's moving really well.
Yeah.
So just an easy FaceTime or a Zoom will take me around the whole office and we can just pick up a small little change here or there.
I like that a lot. Are you only working with general dentistry? Can you come over and work in oral surgery at least a little bit, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have 3 OS offices right now. So yes, we do branch out to other specialties. OS is fun. I like working with GPs that did implants and things, which I get there's a world of like OS, you're more trained. GPs love to dabble. I think like I'm not here for that debate, but I am here for I love OS. I think OS is so awesome. The things that we can do for patients. I
Mm.
think being able to give people confidence back, being able to do it with so much ease. I love surgery. I love surgery cases. I love implants. I love bone grafting.
They're a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah.
We did a ramus, and we harvested the ramus for an implant and it did not go well. So I have a lot of respect for maxillofacial who do it well because ours was not a good experience. But it's just fascinating the thing. So yes, we definitely work in OS and help with that. But and
You
then just
said,
different things.
yeah, you said three office. Is it three different offices or like
Mm-hmm.
one organization or three different organization
Yeah.
practices?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Is one of the Max? I'm curious. Max, Dr. Irex,
No,
go-to guy. Oh, oh,
no.
oh.
I would love to just go see how they do it because I think I'd learn so much. And that's the other fun thing. Like, I am always, I tell offices, I'm like, I'm here to teach you any tip and piece that can make your life easier. But I'm also here to learn from you too. Like, so much of what we do in our consulting, yes, came from experiences and things we brought to it. But like, there's so many great ideas that I see in offices that I'm obsessed with. Like, I've seen like really awesome ways to cut down supply costs just
Mm.
with like tip out bins. I've seen awesome ways with flow. I've seen really awesome things with like things you do in the waiting room of like, there's just so many cool things when you go and see offices. So I would love to go see Max offices of like, what are they doing? What's their patient experience like? What's their team
Yeah.
experience like? Because offices, um, it's usually dependent upon the owner doctor. And I'm like, you can easily, I usually within like 5 or 10 minutes of meeting a team, I can tell, will they be successful or not? And most of it
Hmm.
is due to the owner doctor and how they are. Dr. Jason, he's incredible. He has such a heart of gold. He's very committed to where he's going. I'm like, he like plants success everywhere he goes because of who he is. I'm like, his team, of course, is thriving. I know they're thriving without even seeing his office. So yeah, if you
They
want to do
are.
it.
They really are. And you need to meet Megan Dwyer too. She's like his go-to. Maybe you know of her though. Yeah, they are. Their organization is pretty incredible. Of the DSOs, I would put them at the top of the list. I
Mhm.
think moving forward, I'm very curious to see because they're fairly new. They've been in it for a bit, but they're fairly new. I'm curious to see where they go. I still have a couple more questions if you
Yeah,
have some more
of
time.
course I do. Yeah, absolutely.
What's so here's a quick one. What's some you like to spot the gaps? I love that. What's one difference you see in oral surgery offices that's different from the general dentist office?
Um, OS is just big treatment plans most of the time. Like it's a, we're there to build a relationship. We're there to love them, but we're not there, like, you're not their dentist forever. Like, you guys are there for very much a specialty. And so, like, the way you schedule an OS practice compared to how I schedule a GP practice, the relationship building with an OS practice, a lot of it's going to be relationship building with all your GPs in the area, where GPs are more about just attracting patients in. So that's something I see a lot. But OS is, I think OS is helping the doctors. OS has a reputation of like, pop that anesthetic in, take the teeth out, and off they go. It's kind of a little bit more,
A little more
uh,
rash.
it is a little more rash. And
Yeah.
so just helping those doctors realize like that experience is getting you the reputation all the way out. Like, you're an incredible surgeon. Make sure the bedside manners match your expertise. Make sure that patient feels your love for them, because dentistry is such an intimate experience. Like, nowhere do you let a stranger put their
It
fingers in your mouth.
is.
Like, it's weird. Like, we
It's your
literally let
mouth.
strangers
Yeah.
do it. It's very weird. And
Very
so helping
vulnerable.
those,
Yeah.
it is. And then a lot of OS, I noticed that they're such brilliant surgeons that they struggle with team dynamics a lot. That's something I notice
Oh.
more so in OS than I notice in GP. And so helping them see like, you are this incredible surgeon and I want you to be the expert there. And I also want you to be a human to your team, like Dr. Jason is. He is a very
Yeah.
different OS. He doesn't have that chip. He doesn't have which, I mean, my husband's in medicine too. And there's some surgeons who have that chip on their shoulder and they're total jerks. And like, I watched even in the healthcare, some doctors are such jerks to their team. And I'm like, you get so much more further if your team's behind you than you do by like barking orders at them or telling them. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand surgery is stressful. Like, if we mess up, the surgery has some some not so great side effects to it. And so I understand the need for that perfection, but I'm like, teach your team with those perfect systems that you want it perfect every time, and then love on them when they do great things too, is
Yep.
something I noticed. Now that's not like a blanket statement, because there's GP doctors that need that exact same advice. But that is something I think. It's just OS is, it's fast. It's like shucking teeth all day long. And
Yeah, no, it's so disappointing though, and I completely connect with that. I'm surrounded by such brilliant people. Some of the people that have gotten just at my program, don't want to mention the program, but at my program, surrounded by other oral surgery surgeons and residents that have gotten the top scores in the country. And but there's just such a disconnect where they're like, they just think it's taking out teeth. And I get made fun of for taking a long. I like to take a long time at the consult. I'll ask you 3 times before you walk out, are there any questions that I can answer for you? You know, I don't care if that's annoying or if I'm taking too long and the assistants are bugging me or making fun of me from the hallway and stuff. But it's that patient experience. It's exactly what you said. And I make a lot of content on the side, make fun of that too. But no, I'm really connecting with you on that. It's such an important thing. And I cannot stand that ego. I don't care if you have a DDS and an MD. We are human beings. And outside of the clinic, you're just Josh, you're just Peter. You know, I'm just Brendan, right? You're not talking to this and that. And, you know, and obviously there's so many amazing people out there. And, you know, those are some of my friends. So I'm not talking about them. But it's an interesting thing. It's so weird to find such a predominance of that ego and elevated mindset. And I've found dentists who are just the same exact thing too. For another time though. But yeah, I feel like we can go on to that, but it comes down to the patient experience, and I really do appreciate that. Oh man, I just missed. There were another 2 things that I had lined up ready to go. I shouldn't have said anything.
No, you're good. I think though, as you said that, I think the greatest thing that doctors can do is build that confidence in your patient. I tell all my treatment coordinators and consultants and doctors, I'm like, they are not here buying dentistry. They are buying your confidence. They are buying that you're going to get the best results, because I'm like, people forget that, like, we live in dental Tinder. Like, there is another dentist, there's another maxillofacial somewhere else that can that can do the same thing. And I'm like, they're buying you. They're buying your confidence. They're buying what you can give them of the dream and the hope. And so, yes, like, I love to ask, what questions do you have for me? I want you to be rock solid leaving here. That helps that patient know, one, what questions do you have for me is great. It's open-ended. I'm getting them to say yes to me rather than no to me. 2, I'm telling them how I want them to feel. I want them to feel rock solid, confident moving forward. What questions do you have for me? If they tell me they want to check with their spouse, absolutely, I want you to check with your spouse. What questions do you think your spouse will ask you? That way I can make sure you're fully prepared for it. That's my way I can get past it and find out what's
Oh, I like
really
that.
this patient back. When they're like, hey, you know, I need to check my work schedule. Absolutely no problem. Let's add you to the schedule. So me, Kiera Dent, who's ditzy over here, doesn't forget about you, Brendan. I never want to let you slip through the cracks. I'll just pop you on the schedule. You give me a call when you get to work if that doesn't work for you, because I would hate to let you slip through the cracks. So many little things where we're making that patient the VIP. I feel like in today's world, it's funny because we think that there's so much competition out there, but I'm like, it's actually really easy to stand out, and it's called being kind. I think the world has gone through the COVID crank. I think we've become very self-centered in a lot of ways in the world. And I'm like, the greatest way for us to give an incredible patient experience is to be kind, to show up as a human being, to sit knee to knee with them on their level. And so, like you said, what questions do you have for me? I think we've kind of forgotten how to be human beings. We've become human robots. And that's how you can actually stand out in today's world. I'm like, it's such an easy way to get an edge, is to just be kind and to treat them and make sure that they're rock solid confident is going to be the way to win those patients over. And then, like, I don't care whatever you do, have great bedside manners. But I remember my ER doctor when I had an appendix burst. I loved my ER doctor, like loved him. And he was so busy, but he made me feel so taken care of. And my husband went out while I was waiting in the room, and he's like, our doctor is literally running between rooms, but as soon as he gets the door, he like walks in so slow and like, Kiera, I'm here, whatever questions you have, and then would like book it as soon as he left the room. I never felt that rush. I felt like he was taking great care of me. And I think that's a great way for all dentists to have an edge and to win the patients that need to be served by you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you need to have that humanistic quality to you. And just back to you were saying how it's like Tinder. There's always another. There's always going to be another oral surgeon who's taller. There's always going to be another dentist that's better looking. that's that's so funny. And just a few more questions. I got back to it. By the way, the within those first 2 years, I'm curious. I want to just if we could touch into the secret sauce a little bit here, because I'm going to start in this practice next August 15th, and I want you to come over and do a whole revamp, and we figure out what's going on in the offices, the practices. I'll pay for it however we got to do it, but within those first 2 years, I'll be working for someone. But you were with someone who had started her own practice or was working in one?
Nope, we started it. We bought it from
You
a
started from
retiring doctor.
What were some of those key things, maybe 2 or 3 things, if you could touch on them, that got her from regardless of the numbers, but what got really the scaling going? You said systems and processes, so you got those going. Is there another 1 or 2 things that I should be looking for in my first 2 years? I got a 2-year contract. That's what I signed. Sure. I want to be a partner there one day. What's something I should be looking into to find or bring to the table to be that missing piece? If you can share something, 1 or 2 things.
Of course. So I think I'd find out where are the gaps in that practice right now. What are the things that the owner doctor maybe doesn't enjoy doing? Are they really amazing with numbers? Are they really amazing with the team? Are they really amazing clinicians? Because usually people have a natural gravitation to something. And so when I look at practices and partnerships, I work a lot with partners, and helping doctors come together is what's the complementary piece. So like when I have a husband-wife duo in a practice, I'm like, all right, one of you is probably naturally gifted with the team, and one of you is probably naturally gifted with numbers. That usually tends to be the dynamic I see with partners. When there's multiple partners in there, we obviously bring different skill sets to the table, but I would say go find out. As a partner, if your skill set's the team or if it's numbers, I also say that can't be your crutch either. You still need to go learn the other side of it, so that way you can be a resource for them. So just because you might not like numbers, go figure it out. Figure out how they do the billing. Go talk to the front office. Have them, like, you sit in the chair and physically send a bill so you understand what that process is like. So you know how you can help support your team as well, and also how you can check and audit the numbers in the books. I really love when doctors come in with an owner mindset, and there's also got to be a level of appreciation while there's also confidence. So recognizing that doctor took all the risk to build this practice for you, I think goes a long way. But then at the same time, you need to come in with something that they don't have that you're going to bring. And so really being observant of what don't they like, or what are the gaps? How's the team doing? Are we doing team meetings, listening to podcasts? And then also remembering that you're a leader. So I think you leading, no matter if you care to do it or not, as a doctor, you are just a natural leader to your team. We are always going to follow you. We're always going to respect you because you're our doctor. And so I think those are the pieces, but I feel, pretend this was your practice. What things would you have to know? You'd have to know the numbers. You'd have to know what profitability is. You'd have to know what your EBITDA is. You'd have to know the billing processes. You'd have to know how to hire and fire. You'd have to know the HR portion of it. You also have to be a great clinician. And so as you, like, usually I say your first 6-ish months, you got to be a bang up clinician. Like, I need you to come in. I need you to produce. I want you to do all these things and really learn that mentorship piece. And then, like, start to take on those little pieces of the practice ownership. So when you come to the table, you're not just bringing a check to buy into the practice.
Right.
You're bringing skills that are very valuable to this practice that's complementary to what they have already.
Excellent. And thank you for that. We actually are doing some stuff on the marketing side. So I'm very glad that you mentioned those things. And okay, great. So we'll be touching base throughout next year. I start August 15th, so we'll be doing that. We'll be touching base. I want to. How are you? Is your work expensive? Like, how can I kind of?
Yeah, of course. So we do online and we do in person, and really we try to customize it to your practice. And so all of our fees have always been covered by either the amount we reduce in your overhead or the production we add to your practice. I've never once not had our consulting paid for. And we range anywhere from like $1,600 a month all the way up to $4,500 a month, depending upon the amount that we would be doing, whether we're coming to your practice, whether we're coming out here, what different pieces we're doing and how much hands-on. But really, my goal is, how can we help people succeed and flourish is what I love to do.
Excellent. And you have a team, I'm sure. You have other people. Who's Shelby, by the way? She helps coordinates things, or?
Yes. Shelby is my executive assistant and our customer success. And she does all of my scheduling and coordinating, which is incredible. And then she also takes care of all of our clients too. So she's beautiful. She's incredible. I hired her. She was my next door neighbor, actually.
Oh,
And
amazing. That's great.
I was like, this girl takes care of my plants when I'm out on the road. She just noticed my plants were dying and started watering them for me. She just like randomly check in on me. She was a waitress. And I'm like, this girl loves people so much. I want her in my life and on my team. And so, yeah, we worked together for almost 4 years now, and she's just truly incredible.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so nice that it's like a family business.
I know. Look for good talent everywhere. I've hired people from my next door neighbor. I've hired people from friends of friends. I've hired people from church. Like, you always got to be on the lookout for incredible talent, because those people are the people you want in your life.
How do you find the roles for them in your company? I'm curious, because I'm with one of my marketing startups right now with the co-founders. That's what we're looking for. We need this and this done, but then finding the right people, on top of the day-to-day, the 9 to 5. Sure. You found people at church, neighbor. And they just happened to fit that thing that was missing at that one time, or they molded, you trained them? I'm curious.
Both. So I think it's important, like whenever I tell people like, hey, we're going to try and find a role, and we don't know, I just say, great, like, let's write down everything, like just dump it all on a list of everything that you are either doing or you need to delegate out, or things you'd like to not be doing. And then let's see if we can cluster it. So can we lump tasks together? Like for me, I needed someone to book my travel. I needed someone to do my emails, check the mail, like take care of my clients when I was on the road. All that really falls into an assistant role. And then I was able to go find that person. And when I first did it, I just like dumped everything on a list. I went back with a pink highlighter, my favorite color. And I'm like, these are things that truly only I can do. And it's a good ego test, because 90% of that list is not only you can do. There's probably like 5 or 10% that truly are tasks that only you can do. Wow. And then I looked at the ones that took me the most amount of time. And then I was like, okay, who could I hire for this? And that's how I started hiring these different positions. Now, a lot of times, like, you kind of know like an assistant role or an executive assistant role or a manager role or a marketing person. And then I'll either put posts out there, like job postings out there. I write my jobs to where I'm like, I don't know, I make them very fun, because I really love that person and I want them to come be with us and realize like how great of a position this will be for them. But no, there's so much that can be done with freelancers. Like my first personal assistant I hired for $500 a month. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm having you do, but like, I know I need you. So like more tasks will come as you take on more things, and I'll just like keep paying you. And so then they just morph. And usually those personal assistants, or those assistants that are kind of that random, like jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Yeah.
They really.
Where did you find that person, by the way?
So I found my first one on Indeed. I hired her. I just put an ad out. Viva HR is a great resource too that I love. I'm happy to share a link with all the listeners. It's $99 a month, and you can post on all the platforms, unlimited ads. And I was like spending $15,000 a year on job postings for a while. This has cut down a huge expense for us. So I do post there, but I write mine very fun. So I like talk about how fun our company is. I talk about our Disneyland retreats we go on. I talk about like, what's your favorite cupcake flavor? So that way it's just very intentional. And then for them to come back to me, I do tell them they have to respond back with certain things. And if people don't do it, I just weed through. But yeah, the first personal assistant I hired, she was a college student. She came from a great company in the area, and she just like loved me from day one. For personal assistants, I have a really good process that I'm happy to share with anyone trying to hire this role, where we make them do certain things like book a trip for me, schedule this like dinner thing. And I look to see their thought processes and how long it takes them. So I kind of test them through the interview process. So she was hired from Indeed. Another one was hired. Shelby was my next door neighbor. But yeah, they just come from all over random. But I found the best people for that role are usually from hospitality. So like waitresses, servers, Starbucks, like anyone in that service, like tanning, like anything in that world where you've got to really be like high end, nice. I love a waitress or a waiter because they've got to like watch so many people. They serve a bunch of people. They're very fast paced. Like that's a person who matches me. I love to bring those people in. Speaking
of tanning, yeah, this light isn't doing me any good. But all right, anyway, sorry, keep going.
So that's where can't find those people. But indeed, honestly, college towns, a lot of people in college towns just want, like, I don't need them full time. So they're a really good role to bring in part time. But I found the ones that are in college usually are the best ones for that personal assistant. And then depending on what they're going into school for, Shelby was going to school for business administration. So it was a perfect match for her. My other one was going to school for teaching. So she was with me through the time she got her degree. And now we're still really good friends after that too.
Amazing. You're brilliant. This is one system and process to another. I really appreciate this. I really
Thank
do.
you.
Excellent.
I want to make your life easy. So whatever we can do to like simplify and ease people's lives, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. No, I'm just now we're hitting the cap where there's a lot to take in here. Can you do me a favor and please go and take a look at Max's offices and everything like within this year so that afterwards then we can talk, steal a couple things.
Exactly. Well, he's so great because even on our podcast earlier today, he just mentioned he was like, everybody thinks they're competitors. And the reality is we're not competitors. There's enough teeth to go around. There's enough, like all ships rise, like all tides rise, all ships. And I love that perspective. I'm like, we need more people like him. I guarantee you, if you went and saw his offices, he'd take you around. And that's the
I did actually. Yeah.
Like we attract these doctors who want to give to others, who want to lift each other up, that want to share their best ideas. And that's what I'm committed to just creating more of, because the more we celebrate, the more we share, the more we lift each other up and we give all these ideas. Like I will happily give anything I can for you. Because the more you can succeed, the more you're going to rise other people up with you as well. So why not? The world needs more goodness and more positivity. So let's create it.
It does. It does. The one thing, because he has a corporation now, it's a big organization. They're amazing. They're beautiful. But then there's going to be certain ceilings and walls and what you can and can't do, unfortunately. And I saw his offices and he is outstanding and his team is great. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. And I love that. But I just saw the path to kind of, I don't know where I'm going to make it. And I want to try to go towards administrative in addition to taking out teeth and doing the oral surgery. And I felt that in a DSO, there would be certain boundaries that might prevent that growth. And I'm sure you understand that, right? Especially with your story of the blossoming, right? So, I could. And then there was one person that their organization hired that I knew of that probably wouldn't work well, but, butting heads kind of stuff. So you have to make decisions as you move on. But so I'd be very curious. If I was to work there, we wouldn't have a future of a project together of building, creating systems and processes. So you know what I mean? Like, and this is kind of like how I like to connect. We had a great conversation today. I can't thank you for enough coming on. You have such a busy schedule. Shelby's great, by the way. I'm all over the place. It's only me here right now. And one day learning from you, maybe I could scale. But I thank you so much for coming on. I'm gonna be posting this on whatever platforms we can. I'm sorry that you're recording this with the backwards Riverside. Thanks for Shelby to putting that together, though. But yeah, thank you. I know we're hitting that hour mark, so I want to be conscientious of your time. Maybe we could do part 2 sometime in the future, if that, or maybe when you come through, if you can. Can I? I know you have a team now. In the future, revamping the practice and stuff. Is there a different price from getting you versus a team member, a delegate? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. I have always tried to make sure that whomever I hire is just as good as me, if not better. And so, and I even tell other people, I'm like, honestly, my consultants are usually better than me due to the fact that all they do is consulting. And so they're truly incredible for it. So I have never wanted to have a different fee for myself or for consultants. And so currently it's the same fee. I just don't take on as many clients. However, with that said, certain people that we've connected with, and if I'm in the area and it works out, by all means, I'm happy to come. And even sometimes it's me plus a consultant, because my biggest like expectation of ourselves is, I feel like we have got to be there for clients. Like when I need my coach, I need her. And so we are so on top of it that I would never want to have it where I am busy. I'm on podcasts, like the clients can't get in touch. So I always, if I even am on an office, I pair myself with another consultant just so you guys always have support and you're never left due to the fact that I am busy and I do travel. But absolutely, there's no extra fee if it's me or someone else. So yeah, that would be, but honestly, our consultants, I only bring on consultants in our company that have my experience or better. that they've had to grow multiple practices, that they have the dental experience, that they've got the passion for dentistry, that they've grown multiple practices, because I don't feel like if you haven't been in their shoes, it's very hard to convince people of what to do or
Right.
to even have that empathy. So yeah, so that's how we operate. But no, if I didn't bring on people that were just as good as me, if not better, I think
Of
that'd be
course.
a flaw of myself as well.
That's such a good idea. Do you ever get all your team, the consultants, together on the podcast, all of them in once?
We
How
do.
often do
We
you do
actually
that?
did one. It was actually really weird to have all of us on there because like virtually you don't know who's going next. So it was kind of this like weird dynamic. But we all do get together. It was one of those like it's always like there's a little bit of a delay, and then like we're all consultants, so we're kind of like sharks. No one wants to like sit back. So it was just like
Yeah.
really weird. So I'm like, guys, like it'll be so fun. Let's podcast together. And then we're like, that was really, really weird. So max is three, but usually two of us will get together. But yeah, the consultants are truly magical. And I'm just so lucky to have such a great team of people who just have the passion and the love for their clients and their patients and their team, that they're just really, really amazing people.
Have you seen that meme of the Spider-Man where they're like and they're all pointing at each other and they all look exactly. I feel like where it's like, are you gonna go? Are you gonna go next on the?
Well, and it's hard because like everybody's screen, like if you're on Google Meet or on Riverside, like all the boxes for each screen are in different spots. So it's not even like we can be like the top, the bottom, like all of us are different. And so, yeah, but our team does get together every day. I've just found in a virtual company, you've got to keep that team morale and have fun. And so
Mm.
it's so fun that we like when we see each other in person, it's like nothing has passed by, which I really am so proud of our team for doing. So it's
You
been
got a
fun.
powerful team then. That you guys all respect each other. You guys are friends. That's a group. That's hard to find. You must. I mean, you're the leader in the organization. That must have been. It's probably another testament to you that you know how to pick the right team members. You have a feel for people. That's interesting. I've learned a lot about you today, and I appreciate. It was a slow start to the conversation, but I feel like we got to a really good place, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm very impressed. Thank you for doing what you do. I'm looking forward to seeing where we can go in the future when I got to get out of this residency program and start practicing. But
Enjoy it. Learn as much as you can through residency. That's why I tell all my doctors, I'm like, go through it through residency, learn everything you can, get your bedside manners up, get your speed up, get your skill set up, get so confident in that, get your treatment planning up, because then you're going to walk in and now people are paying you as the doctor, as this
mm,
private practice. They're not coming to you because they have to. So like take this as the most beautiful, amazing, like couple of months and just soak in everything you possibly can, because private practice is not like residency or dental school or anything like that. Now you have to be the one that like is really the magician that turns it on, and gets people to follow you because they love you, not because they want to come
yes,
to it.
yes, that's going to be lesson one. You'll have to teach me how to empower the team. I want everyone on the same playing field. I don't want to be above or on a podium or on a hill. Yeah. Well, we'll make that happen. So thank you. I won't take up any of your night. I know you got the family to get to. So, but thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much as well.
All right.